Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast, where we share games. I'm your host, Zach.
And I'm your host, Tyler.
Hello, Tyler.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Not as long as the previous gap, but about a month now. About a month. I've been not playing Final Fantasy Guy with Sword 16.
Clive.
Oh my goodness.
What a name.
That gravelly voice is perfect.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Folks, we're here to talk about the latest entry from Capcom, Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah. It's
once again hitting it out of the park.
I really am enjoying talking about action games so much. I'm glad that people are making them. No, this is obviously a Square Enix video game made by a bunch of Capcom devs. Which is really bizarre. I'm glad that it exists. Some people aren't. It's definitely... Final Fantasy has always been a step out, especially since 10. Let's just try something new. This is literally the entire other end of the field.
Yeah, it's weird. We're jumping right in. Let's get to the beer real quick.
Yes. So today I brought a few Red Horn beers. Both Tyler and I would agree this is one of the best breweries in Austin. And this beer here is House United. It's a coffee milk stout, only 4.8% alcohol.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not a usual stout. It's
easy drinking.
Much closer to what you'd consider like a dry Irish stout without being a dry Irish stout. It's really good. This is the one that kind of made me realize, because I had it when they first opened and it was fine. I had it a few years later. Oh, they've grown up. Like, this beer hits hard. It's really good. I'm gonna crack it open here. We have a couple others from them as well. We'll see how many we get to. Oh, look at that color. Look at that color. You just enjoy that while I pour this. Yeah. For those listening, it is that typical glorious dark brown color. Great head of foam.
That black color. The head is dark brown. When you look at a full pour of a Guinness, it is a void. It's like, have you ever seen those? My grandpa just poured a stout when I was at his house last night. So I saw this monolith sitting on the table. Just had a really tall, thin glass. And have you ever seen that like black 2.0 paint?
Oh, yeah.
It looks like that. It's just this thing that does not allow light to exist. And it's just
Tyler,
a black
I think
void.
I just need to take 5 minutes. We'll pause the podcast so that I can just drink this in its entirety.
It's very good. Thank you. I have actually not had their House United. I've not had much from Red Horn. I've had, I think, their Amber. I don't even remember what that's called. I think I've only had their Amber.
What? Oh, I had no idea.
Maybe I've had some stuff here and there. I'm sure, because people.
I get this every time I go, and sometimes I go at 10 a.m. Like, it's amazing. Really well made. I struggle to think of a better stout in Austin. The only one that comes to mind is
such easy drinking.
Yeah,
too,
it's
man.
so good. The only one I like better is probably Pinehouse Pizza's Dry Irish Stout, their bearded seal, and that's just more because that's more my style, a little less sweet. While still being this easy, this thin, this low ABV.
I went to Pint House just the other day and had their Farmer Cotton's Field or something. They had a Lord of the Rings themed one.
Great,
two of them. 2 experimental IPAs. Whatever the hell was happening in that one was fantastic. I recommend going there for some pizza sometime soon, and also bread.
Cool.
Whatever that is.
I tried to talk my buddy into going to Pine House tomorrow. He's like, no, I just want to be more adventurous. I'm like, so you want to go to Ramen Tatsuya? Yeah, I was like, you want to go to Ramen Tatsuya? He's like, yeah, I haven't had ramen before. I was like, we're going to go.
This is a food podcast now. Zach, I haven't seen you. My wife and I went on a little staycation just the other day, and we went to Uchi. We went to Uchi for the first time.
Oh, I'm very jealous. We've been to Uchiko, but not Uchi.
This is the finest dining I've had in Austin. Very elevated. Also the most expensive meal. We spent $600.
Oh, I bet easy.
Easy.
Yeah.
I had some of the best sake. That I don't drink sake as often as you do.
When they pick it for you,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah, so there was
It's out of this world.
There was a tasting for 2 people, like $320, a 10-course meal.
Beautiful.
With no pairings, so we asked them to pair 2 small bottles, both of which were fantastic. But the savory one at the end that they brought with the second half of the meal.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
I bet it was wonderful.
I'd never tried yellowtail collar before. You ever had fish collar?
I've not had yellowtail collar. Collar is one of my favorites though. Dude. It's amazing.
And a few hours before, I had a gummy.
Yeah. I'm sure that it was
just a little bit.
I'm sure
I've never experienced food like that. That was amazing.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, it would have been amazing anyway. It wasn't just like I didn't have the munchies and therefore everything was delicious. But Katie said she was watching me interact with the food, and it was just one of her favorite times as well. So the collar was amazing, and then we got to the second to last dish, was a what is that called? What's a sushi roll called? You know, the rice and the seaweed around it. That's not so sashimi is just the strip of fish, right?
Yeah, it's just sushi. Like
okay,
a sushi
sure.
roll.
Well, with some crab on top.
Okay.
Some hot crab. They said it's better to enjoy while it's still hot, so we ate it immediately, and we weren't even done before we flagged someone over to get another order of that, and we had waited 20 minutes for it for some reason, and then another 20 minutes for the next ones, but we still had it in our mouth, and we were melting away, and we were flagging someone over because we needed more immediately. Some of the best food I've had in Austin.
Tyson Cole is an incredible chef.
Incredible
chef. I love his work. If you want a really fun experience, it'll be less money, still a decent meal out, but quite a bit less. Go to Musashino. That's the guy who trained him. That's his restaurant.
Okay.
So it's much more traditional, much less fancy. It's just a sushi restaurant.
Just sushi. Okay.
Yeah, just a sushi restaurant run by this very, very old Japanese man, the guy who trained Tyson Cole how to make sushi. It's much more traditional, much cheaper. Not cheap, like it's a nice sushi place, but man, I mean, it's a totally different experience, but it's so worth it in its own right. Like it's not what Uchi's trying to do. It's very old school, and like them back to back, I'm sure would be a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I'd love to go. Folks, real quick, got to fix something. And we're back.
And we are back.
So, enough about sushi. I had to get that out. I want you to try it so bad.
I want to go so bad.
I'm happy we had our time alone. It's been a while since we've been on a date. Certainly a nice date like that. And it'll be a while before we get to again. However, we really like sharing food.
Yeah.
With you.
Food.
So, kind of wish you were there.
That's okay. I'm glad you had it.
It was a good time.
I'll forgive you.
Really, really good time. Like Final Fantasy 16.
Like Final Fantasy 16.
Right?
Very, very smooth. Let's really quick talk about our history with the series.
Sure.
What are your memories? What is your journey through this honestly staple of gaming?
Yeah. It is, like 007. It's like Star Wars. It's been around. Everyone who has ever watched a movie knows what Star Wars is, knows what James Bond is. Everyone knows what Final Fantasy is, dude.
Yep.
Even the chattiest of chads.
Yeah.
Played Final Fantasy VII.
One of my good friends, he's a huge guy. I mean, he works out all the time. His bicep is bigger than my thigh. Like, huge man. Marines. He's a police officer now. Total badass of a guy. And we were having trouble connecting when we first met, and all of a sudden he's like, dude, have you played Final Fantasy VII? I was like, no, I never have. He's like, what is wrong with you? And then he goes off on the nerdiest tirade I've ever heard about why it's the greatest piece of gaming media ever made. I literally lent him my PS4 so that he could play
the remake.
Nice. It just surprises you. You're like, this series hits a lot of people.
Been around for a very long time. I have not played many entries. I played 1, 3, and 4.
Tactics.
I have played through most of Tactics like 4 times, but never finished it. Or maybe 5. It wasn't until my 3rd playthrough of Final Fantasy Tactics. Everyone's got these really cool abilities on characters that you don't think would go on them, that would belong to those classes. And I'm wondering, how do I do this? I didn't realize there are like 6 tabs of different categories of skills under each job.
Yeah, the job
And you
system
have
in
to
tactics
switch.
is amazing.
I didn't know that. And so then I can just start equipping counter to a bunch of different people. The job system in Tactics is fantastic.
Yep.
So I played Tactics. I played through all of Tactics Advance and Advance 2. Final Fantasy Tactics A2 Grimoire of the Rift.
Yeah.
The Japanese title.
Oh, beautiful.
Let's see. I did Crystal Chronicles. Well, I guess I played quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I have played through maybe a third of 10.
That Coral Punk.
That Coral Punk, bro. I've almost finished Final Fantasy 13 back in the day. I did not like it, but I've been talking to Zach recently about it.
We want to play it again.
Go back and
we're about to have a very good excuse too.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an interesting revisit. Let's see. I didn't play 15. Well, I think that's it.
That's it.
I definitely didn't play 8 or 9. And I probably played a few other spin-offs here and there.
Did you play 7?
I didn't finish 7. Oh, I played 7 Remake. We did play that for the cast early on. What are there? Oh, Crisis Core. I played Crisis Core.
Oh
a couple
yeah,
times.
you liked Crisis Core a lot.
What else we got? There's definitely some other.
There's so many Final Fantasy games.
Oh, I played the Final Fantasy Tactics. What's the genre? Tower Defense spinoff on iOS. Crystal Defenders, maybe it was. I played that.
That's our boy. Mm-hmm. That's our boy. Let's see. My first Final Fantasy game that I ever touched was pretty late in the game. I bought 13 shortly after it came out. I played about halfway through it. I got stuck on the big Pope boss.
Oh yeah, he's hard, dude.
Yeah, and I had no idea how to play these kinds of games either. This was like truly. I didn't play a lot of turn-based JRPGs growing up. I played a little bit of Golden Sun. I never finished it, and I obviously played Pokemon, but that doesn't count for learning how to play those kinds of games, really. It took a while before I really got into turn-based JRPGs, which have become a really kind of a homey genre for me. I do like them quite a bit. Like, for example, I'm bringing a few on my plane ride to India just for a little comfort, cozy, snuggle on up. So that being said, when I bought a PS4, I bought 15 and I played it beginning to end. I liked it. I could tell it wasn't a perfect game. It had a lot of problems, but I enjoyed it. So I went back and I played 4, the PS1 release of 4. Then on the Vita.
On PSP, right?
On the Vita, yeah. It wasn't the PSP release though. I explicitly played the whatever they redid for the PS1. Yeah, that's what I played. And then I went back and played 1. This is the Vita or the PSP version of 1. Which I finished and enjoyed.
Yeah, I finished it and also enjoyed it.
Like,
as well.
I think that game
on Game Boy Advance.
That game punches still way above its pay grade. It's nice. So I played 1 and finished 1.
Did you even boot Final Fantasy 2?
I have not. I will one day check it out. I don't know if I'll ever finish it.
Sprites in that game are bizarre.
Really?
The characters look so
I'd love to look at it. I've not played 3. I have played 5 beginning to end. I believe 5 is, to this day, still the best Final Fantasy game. Lots of depth, lots of interesting stuff going on, great sprite work. I really like 5 a lot. I've played 7 beginning to end. I really like 7. I like 7 Remake even a little more, actually, with the anticipation of what they're going to do with that. So we've played 7 Remake. And then, after that, 16. Yeah, just finished 16. So I've played a decent chunk of Final Fantasy games, about the same as you, it sounds like.
Dude, I can't wait for the next release of Final Fantasy VII. Not Remake Part 2, but they're remaking Final Fantasy VII, sort of in the style of the mobile Final Fantasy 15. I'll play that. That's how I'm going to play Final Fantasy VII.
I'm sure it'll be a good release.
Original Final Fantasy VII. However, I don't think it's yet confirmed for Switch. It's a mobile title. That's so weird.
It would be a good release on Switch. I know 15 was when they did the mobile version on Switch.
In fact, that might also be how I play 15.
That's totally different. But yeah, I
might like it more though.
I'm under the opinion that 7 Remake could be a true epic. this is going to be a huge deal. It's kind of like how nobody's talking about the Dune movie right now. Like,
did you see the trailer, dude?
No, I haven't.
Can't wait.
When part 2 is out and the story is finished, I feel like people will start. It's kind of like when Lord of the Rings, they didn't give it any awards or recognition until Return of the King was out. And they're like, okay, let's talk about this thing as a completed series. I feel like the same is going to Dune part 2. Like, Dune will be thought of as an epic, a legacy. And then I think the same will be true of. We have never had something this big in games. This big budget, this long spanning, this.
I think, it's flashier. Some of the things, modern technology allows it to be bigger in some respects. You're one of the few people that do forget on a regular basis Mass Effect.
It's very forgettable. But here's why I don't include it. Think about those environments. That's the worst part of Mass Effect. The environments are extremely thin, very lackluster. All the flavor comes from the characters and the text itself. When you just look up and see the pizza plate of Midgar above you, that's what I'm talking about. That's
exactly.
That's what I'm thinking of. But you're right.
I hear you there.
Like, I think
but
Mass
once
Effect...
you get to 3, dude, and you have you're standing between two species annihilating each other, when you have to make the decision to administer the vaccine for whatever the Krogan have.
It's fine. It's a good...
that's an epic.
It's as a story. As a story, sure, I'll give you that. It's an epic story that has 3 parts that are, 2 and 3 in particular, very loose, very closely connected. I get it. This is like that big. Times a million. Not a million, but like it's huge. It's massive. I compared it when we were texting. I compared it to the 30s 10 Commandments, to the 50s 10 Commandments. When Cecil B. DeMille's like, I came back to make this movie because I see what I wanted this movie to be.
The only thing I don't see in Final Fantasy VII yet, the scale of the world. Of course, it's huge, way bigger than Mass Effect because of modern technology. However, it's
a Nomura plot.
It's super linear. Like
I think they can continue the linearity and it still be an epic.
Yeah, I'm not saying that is keeping it from being an epic, but that's what makes Mass Effect so big.
Sure, that's fair.
The breadth of narrative inside of it. I don't think there's as much in Final Fantasy VII. It's bigger on every account. It's bigger.
I feel that,
and it's gorgeous.
I feel that. I feel that. Anyway,
but Final Fantasy 2 is going to be like. Yes, Final Fantasy 16. What do we got?
I want to really quick do a brief overview of my take on the game before we go into more of a deep dive. So I think this game overall worked. I think it has its problems. The story is fantastic. I will avoid spoilers because I don't think they're super essential. But there's like a moment where it's like press L3 and R3 to accept the truth, and it's just this great moment for Clive
to accept the truth.
Dude, it's fantastic. The way they build to it is really good. At the very beginning, the fight scene between the Phoenix and Ifrit is brutal. Like, I mean, I literally brought the same feelings as watching Shinji in Unit 1, like ripping apart his friend who's in Unit 3, and he's like screaming and yelling and crying. Like, it brought those emotions up. It was really good. They bring a lot of that back and recapitulate it throughout the game really effectively. Clive's uncle is just a delightful character.
I don't know if I met him.
You didn't quite meet him yet. But he comes out and he thinks that, this is not spoilers. It happens very early in the game. He thinks his nephew is dead. So he hears that someone has come to meet him who claims to be his nephew. So he comes in storming. He's super pissed that someone would he's me. And he's very over the top. He's being flowery. And he doesn't believe Clive. that he's his nephew. Because, I mean, obviously it's been years.
Yeah,
he looks like he's a man now, right? And so he's yelling at him. He's like, get out of my house. How dare you take his name and sully it? And then Clive starts like going, Avast, you devil, how dare you? And like starting to recite the like play that they would have when he was a child of pretending to be like he was the dark evil wizard and Clive was the hero, and his uncle just breaks down. Like, it's so well acted, it's so well put together, and he joins in and they're playing together again. It's really good.
That sounds very good.
And he maintains this kind of silly grandiosity throughout the game. He's obviously very excited to be part of something again. Kind of the old codger back in, like trying to have a little bit more life back in him. It's really well done. The whole story, beginning to end, I enjoyed. The characters are very well drawn. The world is very well realized. It's really delightful to see them double down on a really strong story. So that's a huge praise I have for the game. So I'll give that a hell yes. The combat's very good. I'm going to do a deep dive on it here in a little bit. I would say overall, it's an excellent combat system. Ranked against most other games, I'd call it far superior. But the system itself, but I mean, there's a lot of reskins. There's a lot of enemies that just, like, there's not much enemy variety. Even when they are varied, like when you look at, when you look at a group of enemies, you won't be able to discern the mage who's going to cure everybody from the guy who's going to come and hit you.
Yeah.
Like, there's no coloring. It's just not there. So there's just like enemy design, really everything except boss design really is lackluster. And so that really draws away from the success of what is at its core an incredible combat system that only grows in depth. I mean, literally 5 hours from finishing the game, there's adding stuff and there's more depth there. So, and then the rest of the game, pacing, side quests is unbelievably.
Yeah, that's one of the things that killed it.
Yeah.
So, I am new to having kids and have not yet, gotten used to when I can make time for things, when are appropriate time to make time for things. So I didn't have much time to play this, and then I had about 5 days off. I wasn't able to make time to play any games for 5 days between sessions. And when I came back, I had stopped right at the end of a lot of action. And then there was about 2 hours of downtime. That's all I had. So 2 hours of absolutely boring nonsense really did kill it for me. And you said there was more.
Yeah, so literally every time you reach a climactic peak, it goes to 2 hours of downtime. Every single time. And these peaks, right in the middle of the game, I'm talking right in the middle of the game, is the moment where I said, I know what they're going for, and this is fantastic. I mean, gives God of War a run for its money in terms of scale.
What?
Yeah, it's an incredible moment. You're fighting one of the icons, and the music, like, it's a slow build up. You're kind of like going back and forth. It's someone you've kind of danced with before, and it just keeps getting a little bigger and a little bigger and a little bigger and a little bigger, and it eventually explodes to a scale that is just insane. And the music is fantastic, and all of the hits are just so crunchy. It's exactly what they're going for. You can see this is what was pitched. Like, when you see that moment, you're like, this is what someone said, guys, I got a great idea. It's that moment, and they nailed it. Both that and the final boss, I mean, are just jaw-dropping. Really good stuff.
Who's the final boss?
Ultima.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
a
not
Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, it's a Final Fantasy game. It's just it's good. Yeah, that's it's so silly.
I might end up watching.
At least watch the Titan fight, and watch it, not just the clip of like the big stuff. Like, watch it build. It just builds so well. Yeah, it's really good.
How far away is the Titan fight from where I was?
It's the halfway point of the game. So yeah. I was thinking about booting it up for you here because you can pick your episodes. You'd have a little bit to go through, and we didn't have time. But it's definitely worth it, and it's not a super hard fight. It's definitely a spectacle fight, but it's not like a quick time event fight where you're just kind of only doing the quick time stuff. It's you're hitting him and you're fighting him and you're dodging stuff. It's a good time. So that's what they were going for, and I get it. It's when it lands, it really does. But then that immediately descends into like 3 hours of downtime, and I get it. They're trying to get it. I know what their goal was. They're trying to get you to bond with the characters and do stuff. You have made one of the coolest action combat systems in recent memory, and you don't need downtime. Devil May Cry 5 is very good at proving you don't need downtime. And most people don't want downtime.
The most downtime in that game at one time is maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah, you don't need it. And you can still bond with the characters. You can still have those moments. Don't force it on me, though. Make your side quests better, and I'll engage with those characters on my own. Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit later.
It's probably very difficult to find compelling side content that can compare when the main content is so big
and so well done.
They should have just made a linear game.
Yep, and we'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Let's just get to
Let's open this beer, though.
Oh yeah, let's open this beer.
We have Man Cheetah. It's a hazy IPA. Tell me about it.
I have had it, and it's great. Amanda brought home this like fancy Red Horn sour like IPA it's obviously they're going for a Jester King style beer. And then she also brought this. And I was like, this is 10,000 times better. This is just a great beer. I can't think of anything that would like put it on any of the best beers of all time lists, but I also can't think of any reason not to always want to drink it. It's just a really good IPA.
I found with sours in recent months, really the past year, I like them less and less. When there's a fantastic sour, it's probably
one of the best beers you've ever had. Yeah.
The 3 best beers I can remember having are sours.
But
unless they're at that tier, I kind of don't.
I could not agree more, especially the really vinegary ones. Cheers. That's good stuff.
It's got a great smell.
Yeah, it's very very tropical.
Yeah.
Very tropical, but it still has that kind of West Coast bitterness at the end, that piney bitterness.
Dude,
it's good stuff,
like
man.
That.
Yeah, I could drink that all day. I think there might. No, I think there's one more in the fridge actually.
Man Cheetah. Also from Red Horn.
So let's dive in. That's my general take on the game. I know scores don't really matter, but I gave it a 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10 essentially on that rating app.
I gave it a shelved.
Yes, 8 out of 10. I think that's being pretty generous. That's because obviously it checks a lot of my own boxes. So if this isn't your kind of game, I don't know if I'd recommend it. We'll talk about recommendations here in a bit, but let's dive into this combat. That's what I love the most. That's what interests me the most. That's the kind of game I like to play.
I want to back up just a bit.
Oh, we're backing up, girl.
Okay. So I played maybe 8 or so hours of this. Maybe a little more. Not sure. Let's say between 8 and 12. It's hard to tell with a 40-hour game. I
think I clocked in 33 by the end.
Okay. These are not typically my kind of games. But I enjoy them well enough. Like I played Devil May Cry 4, or rather Devil May Cry 5. I liked it, except for the fact that I played it on easy. If you check out the episode,
yeah, you'll see why.
That was a big deal for me. I liked everything that was happening in this game except for that downtime. It was because of my own schedule. I couldn't commit 40 hours to things that I wasn't, that wasn't firing on all cylinders for me. There's so many other things. I have 1,200 games on my shelf. There's always new games coming out. If I'm going to get such limited time, I'm going to fill that with stuff that I'm a little more interested in.
Yep.
However, these are not typically my kind of games. If I didn't have those restrictions, I'd be all over this. This seems like a great game, so I would recommend it.
Okay, interesting.
It was a very, very good time until that massive dip.
Yeah.
That's really the only thing that kept me from playing it. If I knew there was going to be more 3-4 hour dips regularly, I didn't want to commit to that.
Yeah, that's fair.
So if that's not, something that's going to burden you, if your own schedule is not going to burden your enjoyment,
and you
of this game,
you can breeze through it. Like you can breeze through these downtimes. You just kind of mindlessly mash through it. It's not gonna detract too much from the experience. That's what I did. I got through a lot of them much faster than anticipated. And if you're not into the story, and honestly, even if you're into the story, you can skip quite a few of those cutscenes and be totally fine. It's just trying to get you to know the characters a little more. Things that you don't need. I like Clive. I think he's one of the best Final Fantasy protagonists. I really like Clive.
Yeah, he seemed great. And then Sid. Sid was amazing.
Sid's the best character in the game. I love Sid.
Sid is amazing.
Sid and Torgal. Torgal's an incredible character.
Torgal's a dog. He's a video game dog.
So, of course, he's
like
the best.
Every other video game dog.
No, that's not true. Because he is literally, in almost every fight, he's directly controllable and always with you and able to heal you.
Yeah.
He's amazing. There is, slight spoiler, a moment where Jill is about to be executed and he goes full, ape mode. And he, all of his, he gets these wings. He starts flying around shooting magic.
What?
He goes full mage, half, what do you call it, semi-primed dog. He's awesome.
What the heck?
Yeah. And they even take a full 30 minutes to explain why that happened and whether he will be okay. Basically, the humans in the game, I won't go too much on the story. That's not the focus of the cast.
He's an icon?
No, is
he Carbuncle?
No, so basically what he is, Carbuncle, amazing. Basically, so in the game, humans who can channel magic are typically looked down upon. They're used as slave labor quite often. And the more you channel, the more literally it drains your life away until you eventually petrify entirely. And that's kind of the central conceit of the struggle going on. Clive and Sid want to liberate these people. And certain people are blessed with icons, Eikons, who are the summons of the game, essentially, and have extra generous helpings of these powers. They can go semi-prime, where they half kind of fuse with their icon and get their powers, or they can go full prime, where they become the summon. And this is kind of the central thing of the game. When Torgal goes semi-prime into this kind of Shiva-esque wolf, he's basically part of Shiva's power circle, okay. And that's why he responds when Jill's in danger. But he essentially goes semi-prime, and so they knew every fan would be like, is Torgal going to get petrified? Is Torgal at risk? They literally take 30 minutes of the game to have one of the scholars tell you, no, he's fine. This is part of his nature. He will never be petrified based on the use of his magic powers. Just because they knew everyone to be so terrified that Torgal is going to overexert himself. Torgal, don't do it. Torgal, it's okay.
People in their video game dogs.
It's so funny. But I really like Torgal. Great character.
You mentioned something earlier about this sort of being a contentious title for fans. Mm-hmm. And I think Final Fantasy XVI is in a weird spot. It's massive. This is such a huge budget game. Not a budget that they can afford to start a new IP with. But it doesn't seem like a Final Fantasy game. Aside from the trappings, of course.
No,
you can put a
I couldn't
chocobo
agree
in
more.
anything, and it's going to be Final Fantasy.
Well, let's go to that then. I'm going to talk. I was initially going to talk about this as a pure action game, but let's start by talking about it as an action RPG, right? Because it's not that.
Yeah.
Like that. Let's just say that right out the gate. It is not that. So, let me rephrase. It is not that according to its combat, and yet it contains many of the external trappings of that genre. Consider a bunch of side quests. Consider the economy, which is useless. I always had money because why would I buy anything except just the next upgrade to my sword, which is a straight path. Yeah. There's always a sword that is better. You just buy that one. There's no reason to use the old one. There's no...
And you never don't have anything to... At least I didn't.
And look at something like Devil May Cry, where, it's a pure action game. There's no RPG elements, but there is an economy. You can buy hands for Nero. They have actual implications on what you're doing in combat. None of these really do. It's just numbers up. There's no need for numbers up. It's our complaint with God of War Ragnarok. There's no need for more numbers. That's not what this game is, and yet they're still there. I called it non-committal RPG elements.
Yeah, I really like in Devil May Cry 5, there's not numbers, right? There's just these 5 bars that tick up, right?
Yeah.
You have 3 out of 5 strength.
Yeah.
And now you have full strength. I could be thinking of a different game.
No, you think of a different game. There's literally
simple.
no numbers in Devil May Cry 5. Like, you can't buy a power that makes you stronger. You buy something that gives you a new tool to use.
Okay.
That's pure action. So, in this case, it is numbers making you stronger, more defense, more attack. Why? It doesn't change the combat at all. It's not like, in Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's what I'm kind of using as the template to talk against this with. When you equip an item, sure, obviously there will be scaling. Items you buy at the beginning of the game will rarely be good at the end of the game. But throughout, there are typically multiple options, things that you might not get as much attack from, but a huge defense boost, or you'll get crap attack and defense from it, but it has 2 materia slots instead of 1. There's all these choices.
And that's a big deal. And
couldn't you actually affect the combat. Colors? They affect the combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely could.
Like stripping down Tifa's stats and having
just all stagger.
Amount.
Like she can just stagger enemies by 4 hits because you've just done a bunch of things that boost stagger.
Yeah, or just loading up on materia slots with some people. There's a lot of choices and meaningful choices to be had. There are 0 meaningful choices in the stats.
There is no reason I would not just buy the best thing, and I always had money. By the end of the game, I was just loading up on potions because why not just be maxed out? It was an absolute tragedy. It was a shame. It was very disappointing. But yeah, you mentioned that right out the gate. I really dislike. If they were to strip all that away, get rid of those middle grounds where they're trying to have this kind of RPG, get to know the characters, get to know your party stuff, strip that out, make it really thin, just enough to keep it, and make it something that's not a Final Fantasy game. You've already basically made that. So just commit the whole way. If you want to do something truly unique and crazy, just do it. Where this game fails is where it tries to maintain an identity that is expected rather than what it wants to be. That's where this game fails.
Yeah, it is a Final Fantasy game that is not meeting expectations. It divided some of the fan base, but also couldn't stand on its own legs given the budget. It would crush itself.
People like me would
under
have,
the budget.
Yeah, and you mentioned that. I mean, the budget. Compare this to a release like Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I have no idea, but I assume had a bigger budget, because a lot of it has its weird stilted NPCs, but nowhere near as much as this game. This game looks very cheap in a few areas.
Yeah.
And 7 Remake...
If you diverge from the main path for about 4 steps, it starts to look like a barren MMO.
Yeah, when you're on the main path, it looks fantastic. The big, huge icon fights look glorious.
Is something that draws me towards Final Fantasy 13. I was reading an article the other day arguing that because it's so linear... Every moment is allowed to...
It looks
It looks like a modern game still because they focus so heavily on every inch of that, admittedly, very linear path.
Sure. But, man, I don't mind linear games. You know that about me. I think...
Yeah, it did come out in a time, and that same article mentioned this. It was lambasted for that. And, I was part of that crowd because we were... expecting big open worlds,
and now everybody's kind of just give me a linear, I'm good.
And instead of judging it on its own merits, we judged it on unrealistic expectations. They were never promised.
I'm sure I'll love it when I go back to play it, at least very much like it. I'll be one of its defenders.
I'm still very fond of its combat system.
I don't remember it well enough, unfortunately, but I remember liking it.
That stood out greatly. That might be one of the best Final Fantasy.
Again, though, like you said, I like the look. I like the world. I like the feel of the place. I like the character designs. Saj, I think his name is the guy who has the chocobo in his afro.
I forget. I don't know if it's Saj, but anyway, he's
he's awesome. Really fun character. I really like him. Lightning is still, even people who don't like that game love Lightning.
She's pretty cool.
So yeah, I'd like to revisit.
And Troy Baker. I love Troy Baker too.
I love Troy Baker. All that to say, I think that this game is anywhere it tries to be an action RPG is where it fails. It really stumbles. I'm very disappointed in those moments. Those will be the things that keep me from revisiting it, which is a shame. There's so much to like here.
Do you think you'll revisit for DLC?
I think I'll revisit for DLC.
Because they said they are going to do DLC now.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they went back on that.
That's a shame. Maybe not. Unless it's... No, maybe not. You know what? It's so hard. Eventually. Eventually, yes. I enjoyed this game enough personally to where eventually, yes, I will. Especially because I can skip through a lot of the cutscenes now. I won't skip all of them. Some of them are fantastic. But like a lot of the downtime stuff.
But it might even be stuff that, it might be epilogue content to where you can just pop it in and pick up from where you left off.
Yeah.
Something like the... What is that called? The Blood and Wine DLC, where that's a late game anyway. You've probably finished the game.
Blood and Wine is still my favorite DLC ever made.
I wish I could just start and play Blood and Wine.
You can just find a save file that's right before Blood and Wine. Download it.
Download a save file. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be playing on PS5, so.
Yeah, that's true. And you should just play that whole game anyway.
Yes.
It's an incredible video game.
Yes.
If you want to do it for the cast, you let me know. I'd play that game again in a heartbeat.
I know. Maybe next year, but we've already got some big things.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Yeah.
So let me just move to something kind of... We already talked about it a little bit. As a modern third-person action game, I would say it's middling on this. So it fails as an action RPG, which is weird to say because we all know that's not what it is, but it tries to be in some places. It's just bizarre. As a modern third-person action game, it generally succeeds. Incredible story, really engaging characters, and then these huge, big, epic moments that really land. When you're fighting the final boss, like every third of the fight, it'll cut to a cutscene where usually that's like the biggest no-no. But it's just Clive using all of his icons. Like he'll use 2 of them and then it'll go back to combat immediately. And then he'll go back to using 2 more in like some super epic, crazy way as he's fighting this final boss, who at this point it's on its like 4th phase. Like you've been fighting this boss for like 25 minutes. Wow. Dude, it just hits. It's so good. So like, yeah, I would argue it generally succeeds. It does fail. Like when I think of God of War Ragnarok, I can't think of a single time in that game where I felt this feels cheap. This feels ham-fisted. This just feels like kind of was tacked on. I never felt that once. And obviously that's the best example, right? But this game had many moments where it's like, this feels cheap. This feels unnecessary. This feels stupid. So that's where it would fail.
Ragnarok's incredible, man.
It's just it's a test. Yeah, it shouldn't exist. It's amazing. It's so good. The only comparable stuff is Naughty Dog stuff when you come to that level of detail. Everything looks good. Everything feels good. What are they doing next?
That's been canceled.
Because Last of Us needs more stuff?
So there's been some news that a Last of Us PS5 version is coming out. Last of Us 2, that is. Finally getting an update, because it didn't have an update.
I know.
It still has not had an update.
I know, but why?
Dude,
why?
So they're working on... I forgot to mention this to you a little while ago. They're working on... I forget what they called it, but the Last of Us multiplayer.
A lot of people really like that.
Yeah, I would love to try that. So they're making it as a live service game because Sony is going all in with live service.
No.
Yes, they have 10 first-party titles.
Well, this is the end of Sony.
They send in Bungie's team to assess the game, and they cancel it. Like, this is not going to work.
Wow, so, Bungie?
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's not going to work as a live service game. And that's what it was being made as. So it's indefinitely on hold.
I'm going to be buying an Xbox.
Now, they are likely returning to Uncharted. There have been some...
Do something new, Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
Do something new. Uncharted is done. It's perfect. It's just...
And I don't think anybody wants an Uncharted without the dynamics of those characters.
Yeah.
You can have new characters, but...
Might as well make something new.
Might as well make something new, dude.
Yeah, and I'm done with climbing games. I'm done. I'm sorry. I really love Uncharted, and that's the best that thing will ever be, without any some weird technological leap I don't know of. That's the best thing that, like, when you're climbing right after the shipwreck, and like the camera just pans just a tiny bit up, and you can see like the underhang of the cliff. It will never get better than that. I challenge you to make something better than that.
Cinematically, that's awesome. Mechanically, even though the mechanics are simple, it is a combination of mechanics and cinematics with Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh yeah.
And then
Shadow.
let's see.
I'm writing an essay about that right now. Actually,
just can't wait to read it. Dude. Darn, I was just about to mention. Oh, what if they incorporate more climbing in whatever Kojima's next game is?
Then it'll be the best thing ever.
Death Stranding 2. Rock climbing simulator.
I'm
Boogaloo.
done with. I mean, if it's anything like his walking simulator, yes, because it's not. That's just really weird and is not how it's ever been done before. I'm talking about the way we do climbing in games right now, right? Like if he does that, if he does that, I'll be like, God, again. But I doubt he will. He'll do something stupid and weird, and that will divide everybody.
Yeah, dude, it's been going on for so long. Just like that obviously highlighted cliff edge. Like, who painted that?
It's just the game gremlins. They're just out there in full force.
Like the new Star Wars game does it also. It's just a modern way to traverse things.
It's shorthand. And it started with a lot of natural, like Last of Us Part 1 stands out. Last of Us stands out really well because, a lot of those things, like as the game progresses, it's yellow ribbons and stuff. But at the beginning, when you're running through the street with your daughter and it's just a light turned on somewhere, like it's these very natural things, which work great. And sometimes it's just a big yellow bar of paint.
Very often it's a big yellow bar of paint.
Yeah. So it's like the Gollum game.
Oof.
Yeah.
Dude,
oof.
I'm sad about that.
Me too.
So that is not a AAA studio. Daedalic makes point-and-click games. Over the past 3 years, they've tried to do some other stuff. They did the Suicide of Rachel Foster. Mm-hmm. I think they've done 2 other things. These are in-house developments. And they're no longer doing it. After Gollum, they canceled their next Lord of the Rings game. They will not develop games anymore. They'll just return to publishing, which is what they've done for a long time. But it's not some big AAA developer. It is a small-ish studio.
It's a shame.
It has not been developing games that long. But nobody really knows that about Daedalic. They just see, oh, you have a license, so you must be a big studio. From what I hear, licenses are not very expensive, especially for things that don't have a lot of games coming out or a lot of whatever that media is. If you try to go get a superhero license to make a movie, it's not going to happen. Those have already been.
I'm still waiting on my cool Iron Man game.
Yeah,
I mean,
I feel like someone's working on an Iron Man.
Yeah, they are.
Who is that? Do you know?
I don't remember off the top of my head. But like Anthem is what I wanted, but I don't want Anthem.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like I want a single player thing. To be honest, I do want to just hop on someone's account who's like has a bunch of good stuff, so I can fly around and shoot stuff.
Yeah.
Because that looks great. Just flying around shooting stuff. The game looks terrible, but like moving in those suits looks awesome.
Man, we are about to get just like we are entering into a new era of licensed movies, we're also entering into a new era of licensed games with 2 of the biggest example. Well, Star Wars. Star Wars has a bunch of stuff coming out. And there was
finally Star Wars games were so cool for so long.
Yeah. So the Star Wars game that came out earlier this year seems to be a big hit. And Quantic Dream is making a Star Wars game. I'm looking forward to that. They get a lot of crap from a lot of people because they make some weird stuff. But I would like to see that kind of thing in the Star Wars universe. I think that'd be very interesting. But also, we have Indiana Jones coming out from Bethesda and
so wild.
007 coming out from IO Interactive.
Dude, and what a great studio to choose for 007.
Yeah. They basically already make James Bond games.
Dude, Hitman 3 is still such a great time.
We're supposed to talk about Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, and I have one more thing to say about the combat. This will take a little longer, probably. As a pure action game, which is what it is, what it was trying to be at its core, let me tell you right now, by the time you get all your icons, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Yeah, really like 7.5.
Really?
Yeah, it's a lot.
How many can you have equipped?
3.
Okay.
So you have 3 at a time. But you can upgrade basically as you upgrade each one comes with it'll change what your circle button does, and then you have the abilities, and each icon can have 2 abilities equipped at a time.
2 out of like 5?
2 out of 4.
Okay.
There's 3 and then an ultimate. You start with 2 that are unlocked already. There's 1 you have to pay to unlock, and then there's an ultimate ability you also have to pay to unlock. The ultimates are rarely worth it because their cooldowns are so long. You kind of want to keep these
expensive.
Abilities. They're expensive. The
you can
Bahamut
be upgrading
one,
other things 2 or 3
the
times.
Bahamut one is so worth it though.
Okay.
You literally stay stationary and shoot a giant laser that pierces all things, and you just move it, and you're just racking up damage. It's so powerful, and there's so many other things you can do. So the progression for this system is so good too. I'll get to that in a moment, but you're going to essentially equip those, and if you upgrade them all the way, the last level, the mastery level, says you can equip this to any icon.
Oh, really?
And so, like, for example, I really liked Titan's abilities, but I didn't necessarily like his circle. So when you equip an icon, the circle you can't change. The circle button will do what the circle button does, which for Titan is a guard into a counter, which is really cool.
And at least with the first 2, they sort of were thematically consistent with the sort of attacks that
yes,
icon's
and
doing anyway.
It stays that way through all of them. It's very well done. And so, for example, but I really like one of his powers. I can master that power with ability points, which you can sell and exchange at any time for full price. You can just say, nope, I don't want this ability anymore. It'll give you a full refund on those points, and you can spend them somewhere else at any time. More games, please. I was able to experiment and do cool things, and I ended up with a build I really liked. Anyway, so you can essentially master one to equip it to any icon, no matter what you have equipped. So, for example, Garuda. If I don't want to use Garuda's circle, which is a grab move, I can equip Titan, master the Garuda ability I like, where you spin your claws and you launch an enemy in the air, and I'll just master that and equip that to Titan instead. Really cool stuff. So the first 2 are very DMC Devil May Cry. So you get the Phoenix, and it basically you teleport to the enemy and are attacking them. It's a way to kind of stay aggressive. I would argue it's one of the most useful ones. Same with Garuda. Garuda, when you unlock her, is a pull. It pulls smaller enemies to you. Larger enemies, it launches you up in the air so you can be jumping on them. Really simple stuff. Already, with just those 2 unlocked, I was able to do some crazy combos because you're launching someone, teleporting to them in the middle of your combo, switching to Garuda, launching them on the ground, grabbing him and someone else up with the claw, doing your spin move, launching them higher up in the air, jumping off of them with enemy step. Like, there's all this stuff you can do. It's very robust and very kinetic. You're moving to and pulling people towards you and managing that space. I was wondering what they were going to do next. Then you unlock Titan. So now you have... then you unlock Rama. Rama, the lightning one.
Why?
There is an interesting reason as to why. So you don't, just like you see with Benedicta, you don't have to die to get an icon. I don't know if you got to that part. Yeah, you got Garuda. Yeah, so you don't have to die to get an icon. And so obviously you unlock Shiva by the end of the game. You don't have to die. You know, there's no spoilers here. I'm not gonna tell you if Sid dies. I'm not gonna tell you if Jill dies. But you do get all the powers by the end essentially. But the Does
he become some sort of savior figure where he takes all the icons so nobody else is dying by using this magic?
No, not quite.
Okay.
He has a
moment. If it would work that way.
He has a moment where he's like probably thinking like that, but he gets slapped out of it by a really cool character. Okay. Anyway, so you get Rama next, and you can basically circle is really weird. It's the only one that I feel is odd and doesn't really fit. You just float in the air, target a bunch of people, shoot some lightning bolts. His powers are where it's at. His powers like huge stun, huge damage, low cooldown, very powerful stuff. Anyway, so you get that. That one kind of, it's trying to teach you to, I think what its goal was try to teach you to how to manage the space without just directly interacting with the enemies. It doesn't work well. It takes too long. It's not fast enough. So then you unlock Titan. This is where it gets good because Titan, you get a block, and if you block it just the right time, let's open that. If you block it just the right time, you can do a counter move. And so then it gets fun because you're trying to manage you're trying to manage your teleport dash and your grab, but being aware of where Titan is in your wheel, because it's still the same button to cycle through all three, so that you can quickly pull out a counter them, go back to your other stuff, and be managing this within your combo. So now the game is like really opened up. And so I was like, where are they going to go from here? This is basically it. The last 3 powers are wild.
All right, tell me about them. After I let you know, we are having Red Horn's Aloha, y'all. This is another seasonal one. This is a pina colada milkshake IPA.
I have not had this.
Yes, so. That's a lot of little buzzwords I'm not sure if I'm into yet.
Yeah, I picked it up because it was a weird choice.
Yes.
I just figured it
Best
smells it smells like pineapple. Wow.
Well, so did the last one, which I did enjoy.
And this smells like a pineapple.
It's just Dole juice straight out of the can. That's good.
That's good.
That's
that's delightful. I like that. It's not that usually when you hear a milkshake, you get this weird oversweet. I think it's nice. This is a good balance.
Yeah. Real quick, the ability to equip icon abilities on other icons reminds me of one of the, at least in my memory right now, one of the best times I've had with a game as a kid was Final Fantasy Tactics 2 on the DS. I can't remember if this is the way it works in Tactics Advance 1, but certainly in 2, and 2's just bigger, so I would recommend playing that one. You can so every piece of gear gives an ability to a class. Maybe 3 different classes or jobs can equip it, but there's a different ability each of them will get from this particular piece of gear. So there aren't stats. It's all gear based. You put armor, you put boots, you put a weapon on, and you build your class out this way. But every time you use that ability, and they're active abilities, by the way. So every time you use that ability, you get maybe it's 10 or 20 points into mastering that. And they master at 100 or 200 or 300
Oh, okay,
points.
yeah.
So from there, you can then equip those abilities to anything else. You can unequip the weapon and put something else on. So it's never about getting better weapons. It's always about mastering new abilities.
And they've gone back to that. That's what they've gone back to that, like with Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like each weapon has a specific ability, and if you master that ability, you can then use it no matter what weapon I have equipped. Yeah.
And Final Fantasy Tactics did that as well, but to a less accessible degree than Tactics Advance.
Okay.
Because you would just be the class, and you would have a default set of abilities when you switched into the job. But as you used the job, you got a currency, the ability points, to spend on any one ability. So if counter costs 300 ability points, you'd have to be using the monk for a long time, finally unlock counter to use either with the monk, or you can switch to a different job and take counter with you.
Yeah.
But with Tactics Advance, it's all gear based. And I thought was great. Just nothing became old. I would almost never sell items unless it was just ability I never wanted to use again. Because every time I would get a new character and I wanted to build up a new class in this way, I'd have to re-equip a sword, or not re-equip because it's a new character, but I would equip this thing that I got in the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And it's still viable.
Wow. That's so cool.
It was a very good game.
Yeah, I want to play it. I don't own it yet. I do want to play it, though.
Anyway, the last 2 icons abilities.
So the last 3, So you unlock Bahamut. He's just giant dragon with a bunch of lasers. It's cool. Mm-hmm. His circle, you go into this state. You can't do anything else, basically. You just go into the state where you're floating, and you have a dodge, and that's it. And if you dodge, and then a meter slowly starts to fill. When it's upgraded, it can fill up to 4. And now you've introduced meter management into this whole shebang. When you dodge, though, it fills a whole bar immediately up to 2 or 3 or whatever. So it's encouraging you to kind of actively be in the middle and activate this if you're smart, because it starts to decrease over time. If you're smart, you'll be able to switch over, or not smart, skilled really, switch over to it really fast, activate it when a move that's about to like do 3 big pulses of something is coming at you, dodge into it 3 times, go max, and then when you hit circle, you get Giga Flare, and it's a big ring around you, and just literally raining down hellfire.
Wonderful.
And with constant damage. And so if you can trigger that right before you stagger someone, then you're just getting free damage on top of that because they're staggered. So it's all about timing this dynamic.
I did find that to be very satisfying because your abilities get you a lot of stagger, but then there's the cooldown. So then if you're not managing that just right,
you won't have anything to get your bonus damage on the stagger off. Yeah, absolutely.
You can typically use an ability twice on... Well, that's not true because if you're using a ton of abilities, you can use like 3 special attacks for each bar of stagger. Because by the time you use the 3, you've now gotten rid of like 2/3 of the stagger bar, and then you just wail on it until you get to the middle point, which is like the like mini stagger.
Yeah.
And then you can use 2, maybe 3 more to finish that, and then you have a full suite of abilities to just unload on them with.
Yeah. And
with the full stagger.
To optimize, you have to really know and balance what you're doing, which becomes even more important when I get to the last icon. Second to last icon is Shiva. Shiva's ability is a dash that happens twice. The second one leaves a ice crystal behind that if anybody is near it, it explodes and freezes them. So you're kind of freezing. If you get a perfect dodge with it, you unleash a Giga Freeze, which freezes everything for a decent period of time, including bosses. It's super good. And then the last one you get is Odin. Odin is insane. Just pressing circle switches up your sword to Odin's sword, and you have a new moveset.
Great.
So now you can be switching in between these 2 movesets, which also fills a bar that goes up to 4 by landing Odin hits. The end of which is the most powerful move in the game. I can never pronounce it. Zentutsutskin or something.
I have no clue.
But it's just like the classic Virgil, the screen gets sliced and everybody's dead kind of thing. I am the storm.
Is that from that song or from that game?
It is. That's Virgil's theme. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So when you hit S rank, that song, the vocals come in. And it usually comes in right as he like sheathes after your super move, and it just looks great. That game is so cool.
Yes, it is.
So you get a move like that. And so now I'm running Shiva. So I have Bahamut. Anytime I see a big move incoming, I'll switch over to him to get Giga Flare going. Or try to slowly build Giga Flare as I know a big stagger for a big enemy is coming. The rest of the time, I'm trying to use Odin to build up the bar. And I have Shiva right after Odin, so right as someone's about to hit me, I can switch and then Giga Freeze everybody. Go right back to Odin, typically using his ultimate, which builds like 2 meters of his bar, and just trying to weave that into the stagger meter correctly. I've built this way of playing the game around these things, and then all my abilities kind of focus around that. I have one that's really just for stagger build. I have a couple that are just for damage, and the rest are kind of all about utility weaving in and out. It just works. By the end of the game, when you're fighting the last boss, you can tell it's a good last boss because it responds. I thought of a totally different strategy using totally different icons that would have worked perfectly. Mine's a little bit more passive, waiting for that Giga Freeze and unleashing huge damage with Odin and Bahamut after building up these meters. You could also have done a Garuda, Phoenix, and Titan where you're just constantly right on top of him, blocking, getting counters on. That's probably a little more effective, but way less satisfying in my opinion. But you can do that. Everything the last boss does challenges the quote-unquote action build you've essentially made for yourself. And that's where the game really shines. You know, it stands above the poor enemy, the poor non-boss enemy design. It stands above all the reskins. It stands above the fact that Bahamut and a bunch of your abilities make it impossible for you to see what's actually going on the screen. And so you might as well just not be playing the game and just dodging willy-nilly. It makes up for that stuff because you can see it working, especially right there at the end. I think it really, really works as an action game. If you could mod this game to have more enemy variety, better enemy indicators, and less stuff kind of blurring your vision with these big moves, you'd have an absolute masterpiece.
I don't think they'll do that last thing.
No.
Flashy nature is
as part of the package.
Part of Final Fantasy.
I get it, but man, it really sucks when I'm just like watching a boss who I'm doing so much damage to all of a sudden come out of the fray. I couldn't read his tell and I'm dead. Odin has a move that kills you in one hit. Died to it twice because I had Bahamut going and it was just exploding him a million times and I couldn't see what was happening.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really dumb.
You know, something I did appreciate, just thinking about the scale. Summons have pretty much always been this crazy. But they've just been cutscenes that happen. Like Ifrit, if you summon Ifrit in Crisis Core, he's floating above the world. It's this giant flaming demon floating above the world, doing a spirit bomb of lava and throws it at your enemy, and then you go back into the normal arena. So it's always been this. But it's so well, the scale of the Titans, the summons make complete sense here. They're not silly in the way they've been in other games.
No, they really work. They really work.
I like
you unlock more moves. How far did you get?
I got...
What was the last boss you fought?
I don't remember. I got through that first bit of downtime after you go with Jill.
Did you fight Garuda, like the Titan?
Garuda is the wind Titan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you like went Ifrit.
Yes.
Okay. Dude, when that like perfectly parallels with what was happening in the intro, that's really good. That's really good storytelling. Anyway, you unlock abilities with Ifrit as well. And so
that's cool.
Like you'll get to where you can do the little, probably the most interesting thing, he takes it from Nero, is you hit your attack button and you can immediately press the magic button and you'll do another move. Mm-hmm. When you're Ifrit, you could press the magic button a second time and he'll do a totally brand new move. And if you get to the end of your combo with it, he's like launching these huge explosions and stuff. You unlock, all your... you unlock different ways to dash around and zip, and eventually you some spoilers here, you fuse with the Phoenix, and so you're literally flying in space fighting Bahamut and like teleporting to him, and it's a Dragon Ball Z fight. It's awesome. It just crazy. It looks wild, man.
Just melting PlayStation 3s around the world.
Yeah, dude, it's just awesome. Yeah, they really nailed the combat because they didn't skimp. Like it has to the point where I have it here. The QTEs didn't bother me at all. The quick time events.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Like, I mean,
particularly
it was kind of fun, like to have them there. It keeps you like. It's not this annoying thing. Like, Bayonetta quick time events can die. I hate quick time events in Bayonetta. First of all, they don't fit the game. Second of all, you immediately get a game over if you fail one, and they're really tight windows sometimes. I hate you. But second, like quick time events typically like are just a lazy way to let a cinematic play out. You are already doing all the cool stuff. This is just a little extra transition between another moment of the fight. It's just like, hey, hit the button and sure, whatever. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me. It wasn't
not very intrusive.
Yeah, it didn't supplant you actually doing cool things. It was just kind of there to lend a little extra oomph, which is what they should be. That's why God of War 3 succeeds with quick time events. Quick time events aren't bad. They're bad when they take the place of giving the player the ability to do all those cool things. Dude, fighting Kronos in God of War 3, it will never be. Awesome. It will never be It will never not be one of the best fights. It's so good. That's all I have to say about the combat, though. I know that's a lot. There's a lot going on there. I would argue that Final Fantasy VII Remake has a better combat system overall. But if this game had better enemy design, it had better pacing, it could potentially stand up to even that. But 7 just, every decision matters from an RPG perspective. The action's still fun. You can literally build it so that you can play it like an action game. You can equip parry materia and all this stuff. If you want, you totally can. Or
yeah, once I unlocked Tifa, I mained Tifa.
She's amazing.
And played it more like an action game.
And it lets you do that. Like, I think it's an incredible system. I'm really excited to see if they expand it. They don't need to. It's great, but I'm like excited to see what they do with it.
Or if they just do something else.
That would be wild, and yet totally par for the course.
Who knows? This is crazy.
Well, you know what I learned the other day is everybody kind of blames. You know who Tetsuya Nomura is?
By name?
He's the director. He's the director of Final Fantasy VII Remake and all the Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Games,
Okay. Yeah.
right. He was a character designer and story writer for the original Final Fantasy VII. So he has a certain reputation.
Yes.
And so when people saw them diverting so much from the Final Fantasy VII story with Remake and doing the whole Fate thing, which I think is great. I think it's a great way to handle it. It's on the nose, but it just works well for Final Fantasy. Apparently he was the one trying to keep it as close to... Like, this is publicized interviews. The producer, who's the original director of the original game, is the one who's trying to break out and do all the weird stuff. Apparently it was supposed to be even more off course, and Nomura reined it in.
Wow.
I almost don't even believe it, because that man is
weird
insane.
Development history. This game is wild.
It's
the fact
wild
that it exists in the first part, and we're about to get part 2 of what, 3?
Yeah, 3. What a trilogy.
Be awesome, dude. You think we'll get part 3 in this generation?
No, I don't.
Really? Part 2 has been a totally normal development time. Coming out
Sure.
in probably March, that's been totally normal.
But when did Remake come out?
21.
No, wait, 21?
2020.
2020, that sounds
Yeah.
right. Maybe we will. Maybe we will then. As long as
I bet Final Fantasy 16 has just allowed them to push it back a little. If it weren't for Final Fantasy 16 this year, we'd probably have 7 Part 2 as a holiday game.
Probably. It's early next year, right?
Yeah.
That's when it's supposed to come out. Well,
That seems like
and it came out
on track to make games properly.
That's
which is great.
Again, I don't believe it almost because Nomura and Square and all these people. I wonder what's going to happen with 17. Because I don't think this game.
Do you think 3-digit Roman numerals are too much for a series?
No.
Maybe we just.
Let me clarify. For most series, yes. For a series from Square, that's tame. That's tame. Yeah, they go
17.
hard.
Who knows, dude? It was so long between numbered entries.
Yeah, and that's fine.
In what, 2015 or 16?
What I would like to see from a Final Fantasy 17 is I would like to see something more like what they're doing with 7 Remake. That kind of a combat system. Sure, its own thing. Something weird that doesn't just copy that, right? That's what I like about Final Fantasy numbered entries. They're always different. There's always something weird going on. Maybe be ballsy and try to compete with Persona 5. Do a true turn-based combat system again. You know?
Do a monster catcher.
Dude, there's so much that they could do.
They already have a Final Fantasy monster catcher. That would not work.
I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of room here, man, to do something weird, and I'm glad that they did this. I don't think unfortunately it deserves a spinoff. If any of the numbered entries deserve a spinoff, it's this one. Because it's a really unique system with more room for improvement. You could do it pretty cheap. You have the tech right now already. You don't need to put all this money in it. Make it a true linear, really fast 12-hour action game. You know?
Maybe DLC offers more variety. Some epilogue content, and then a revamp of the base game with more enemies.
Yeah. I think there's a lot more here, but I do want to see them continue the trend of numbered entries just being weird and doing something that breaks the rules. I like it when they do that.
Do you think they'll ever go back to turn-based? Just to do it again?
I don't think because of the way Square manages it right now. But I think if leadership changed, there's definitely a possibility. I think Persona 5 has proved that there's still a market for it as long as you make it right. That game is 100 hours of turn-based combat. Obviously, it's not all turn-based, but like it's not all combat. But still, it's a lot. And I played that game. I ate it. I devoured it. I shoved it down my gullet gleefully.
Correct.
Because it's amazing.
It's the longest episode, man. On one game.
Yeah, because it's the longest game I've ever played, probably.
Yes.
I think the only single-player game I've put more hours into is Metal Gear Solid 5, but only because I've played it twice.
Sure.
Like,
I'm so glad you shared that with me.
It's such a good game, dude.
Think about it
doesn't
all the time.
deserve to be that good.
Didn't even finish it, and I think about it all the time.
It's just so good. I every once in a while will boot it back up and just feel good.
Dude, it was. I know. I already said it in that episode. I say it all the time, but it was like 20 minutes into the demo. I was like, damn it, dude.
This is just that good.
This is the best game. 20 minutes into the demo.
Talk about a good game to just boot up and play. Ground Zeroes.
Yeah.
Just run back through Guantanamo Bay in a new way, because I guarantee you haven't played it every way you can play it.
Yeah, I've only played it once, so I could definitely, and now that I know more about it,
yeah,
I could definitely.
Playing Phantom Pain helps because it lets you explore the mechanics and get a good grasp.
Do you think in the Volume 2 Master Collection?
I'm afraid they're gonna skip 4.
Yeah,
I'm very
I think
afraid.
they'll skip 4.
Dude, but that's the one that needs it the most.
Of course, it's stuck.
Yeah, because what would that be otherwise? It
stranded.
would just be Ground Zeroes and Phantom Pain.
Yeah.
That's not even a
and
volume.
Peace Walker.
Oh, Peace Walker.
Yeah, Peace
That's
Walker.
right, Peace Walker. Which I'm so sorry, I still don't like Peace
Yeah.
Walker.
The Acid games.
That'd be awesome. I'd take that.
Yes.
But 4 is what needs it. 4 is what needs people to come back and realize that game is incredible. That game, I think about it all the time.
Anyway,
Just
do you think? What if they release Ground Zeroes Plus with full mechanics?
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be really, and like just let you have the full suite of like gear, even though it kind of breaks the game. Like, who cares? Like, just here's everything you get in the Phantom
Well,
Pain.
maybe even like shuffle it up a bit. Just add some new enemy types
that'd be
to
great.
account for stuff. So have like when you go into the main menu, you choose Ground Zeroes or Ground Zeroes Plus.
Oh, that'd be a great idea.
And you just get a reshuffled version.
It's such a short game. It's perfect for that kind of remix content. They've done stuff like that before, like VR missions where they kind of remix stages. Yeah, there's precedent.
Shadow Moses missions.
Dude, Raiden. Oh, what a character.
I'm gonna play that again when it comes.
You know,
to
if I'm
Switch.
ranking them based off of story, everybody would hate me. I'd put 3 as my third favorite, because 2 is my favorite story in Metal Gear, followed surprisingly closely by 4. 4 is such a good time.
Yes, 4 is wild. Dude.
Yeah. And then 3, which, sure, technically 3 is the most consistent traditional story. It's like, I get it. That's why it's not my favorite. Like, that's why. And then probably like Peace Walker.
2 has some amazing moments and some. What is a vampire, bro? A vampire on this military
Fat
base,
Man,
dude.
just as an
And
existence.
Fat Man. Oh my god, this is one of the dumbest moments in all of video games.
I love it so much.
In one of the best games ever made.
With his like champagne glass with a curly straw.
Dude.
I love it.
Fat Man, one of the dumbest moments in a video game, is in the same game as the most profound, prophetic statement of the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
Speaking of which,
And
there
it
was a
still works.
producer, not a producer. I don't think he produced the movie, but just a producer in Hollywood who watched Oppenheimer and said it's the movie of the century. That's some big praise.
Can't wait.
I'm actually seeing it
Monday,
before you, so I
baby.
won't say anything.
Oh, when are you seeing it?
I'm seeing it tomorrow with Dad.
Okay.
Going at 9 a.m. because that's the time my dad likes to watch movies.
It's great.
It's a great time.
You have
I
a
almost
whole
went to
day?
see. I want to go see Barbie tonight, but I don't even know if I'll have time to come visit you. So I don't
go see
want. I won't have
Barbie,
time. No, I mean I wouldn't even have time to like come see. Like I have stuff to do at house.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we're also seeing Barbie. We got tickets for 8 p.m. in San Antonio, so we'll be
Dude,
coming back
yes!
very late.
I love it.
We'll have like 15
I'm
minutes
so
to
sad
go
I
to the
can't
bathroom.
join you.
I know.
Oh,
Me too, man.
I would love to be there.
But we wouldn't be able to do much because he's freaking poor. We might not even get barbecue from that place he really wants to get barbecue.
I will give him $20.
He's so freaking poor, dude.
I will give him $20 right now. I hand it to you.
Like I'm assuming we're gonna take my car. He hasn't paid for either of the tickets.
We love him.
Just go get barbecue, bro.
We love him.
We do.
He's a beautiful man.
We do. He shall not be named.
Yes. All that to say.
Anything else, man?
All that to say, I have a affection for this game. It's never going to reach the heights of the affection I have for games that are far less worthy and that I love so much more, if that makes sense. But it is a really special game. My assumption, here's what's going to happen. Very divisive right now. In a few years, people will forget about it. And then in about 10 years, not even, probably 5 or 6 years, this will become the cult. Oh, have you not played Final Fantasy 16? You should definitely go check that out. It hits way above what you'd expect.
Like 13 is right now?
Probably a little more so because it's already received positively, unlike 13. Sure. But,
well, I mean, 13 was received very positively, but not
by the fan base as much.
Split the fan base.
Yeah, this split the fan base, but at least like the ones who don't like it just don't like the direction. They don't think it's a bad game as much, you know. At least that's from my understanding. So I think that's probably what'll happen. I will hold it. Like if I'm gonna rank my 3 favorite Final Fantasy games right now, I don't think it'd make the list. Yeah. I think it'd be 5, 7 remake, and this is weird. Probably 1.
2.
I really liked 1, and that's a rough game.
But you are missing a lot, just like I am, including tactics.
And 9. 9 seems like one that's right up my alley. Yeah. That seems very charming, heartfelt. Like, that's my kind of game.
Dude,
you know?
It was so great to put that classic Final Fantasy collection on Switch. Finally arrived from PlayAsia.
They reprinted it.
Good.
I've thought about buying it, but it's only $30 more to buy it on eBay, rather than reprinted from PlayAsia. Oh wait, I just don't have the money for it right now. Sure. My money's going other places, but I do want it. It's gonna be the way to play those games.
Well, you have the next few games we're gonna play already, so I mean that's gonna go up, dude. That's gonna go up.
I want to tell everybody right now what I'm most excited for.
6 Final Fantasy titles show up on your home screen, and it feels great, man.
I know, and I want to play 6 very badly. Yeah, I want to play 6 very badly.
You're gonna tell everybody what?
Right now. I am so excited to play Dead Space. I've been putting it off for a long time.
So if you go back and listen to our, it was from our first year, from 2020 when we started this cast, we played Dead Space 1. And I said, I went back and listened to that recently. I said that next time I play Dead Space, I'll play it with just the plasma cutter. So this time around, I am going to play with just the plasma cutter. I'm going to upgrade it fully, going to get all the suit upgrades because I won't have to divvy up my upgrades to the other guns. I'll get the flame, assuming the progression is the same. Towards the end of that, you get flame damage.
Dude, the flame damage is amazing in Dead Space 2. Dead Space 2 is amazing. It is in the 3 best survival horror games ever made, and potentially in the 3 best action games ever made.
Is that in 2, not 1?
It's in 2 for sure.
Huh.
I don't know about 1. I played 1 once, and it was when we played it for the cast. So it was a long time ago for me.
Well, I know they're bringing other stuff from 2, like they
added
way
a
you
lot,
remove,
and that's going to be. I feel like that's going to be the
3D.
primary conversation because we're going to play that and Resident Evil 4. We might even want to make it one big episode, because what's going to happen is 4 stripped out a lot of stuff from the original, and Dead Space kept everything and added. In terms of actual story progression, like content.
Yeah, because the whole place is interconnected now. You don't split up each section by the train.
Yeah. So, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, I'm very I don't know what's going on with Dead Space Remake. I'm very excited to play it. But the biggest criticisms of 4 have been that there is less game than was in the original.
I think the definition of game is probably for losers.
Maybe. I won't. I'll try not to show my hand too much as I did play it earlier in the year because I have the biggest Resident Evil fan as a wife.
Yes. So I played it immediately on launch, but I haven't played either. And you haven't played Dead Space.
I have not played Dead Space.
We'll be playing this.
I have remained virgin for you.
Thank you. Thank you for saving yourself.
I am ready.
So this October we'll be playing Dead Space Remake, Resident Evil 4 Remake, and since Silent Hill 2 was delayed and we will not be getting that by October,
shame.
We will be playing the new What's it called?
What are we talking about? Sorry.
The other game we're playing, Amnesia, the new Amnesia.
Yeah,
game.
the new Amnesia. I was about to say I forgot what I sent you.
Yeah, the bunker.
Yeah, I've heard good things, so I'm excited to play it.
I haven't heard anything, but I'm gonna play.
I've heard from one person, and that's what made me text you. So,
Amnesia 1 and 2 are very good games. Especially
I have not
1.
played 2.
Well, not Machine of Pigs. You did play 2.
Oh, is that what they're officially calling?
No,
2?
the last one that we played, the
Rebirth?
one in the desert, Rebirth. Yeah.
Is that 2?
So.
Yeah, explain.
Another
I don't
team,
know.
the folks that did, they're called the Chinese Room.
Yeah.
The folks that did, what's that one where you're walking on the island and that British dude is telling you...
What remains of Edith Finch?
No.
Sorry. No, I literally said Rose. No, what is it called?
Dear Esther.
Dear Esther. Gosh.
So that team got the license to Amnesia and made a game called Amnesia Machine of Pigs.
So that's not considered Amnesia 2 then?
No, it is technically an Amnesia game, but it is not from the same studio.
Doesn't Jacob Geller like that game? Like, he defends it?
Maybe.
I think he does. He defends it for the music, I think. And, like, the building and the tension in the moment.
The music in Dear Esther was amazing. I wonder if they got the same person to do it.
Maybe. His video on video game music is all about Machine of Pigs, basically.
I have not seen this.
I don't know. I'll send it to you.
I would like to play Machine of Pigs. Now that we're so far removed from any criticism
Rebirth's
of it,
good. I still will recommend that game to quite a few people.
I enjoyed it even more than you did. I freaking loved
you did.
that game.
And I have my issues with it, but overall what it leaves you with is so good. And
I already like first person adventures. So
I pretty much just like Riven and Myst, which, dude, Riven, we talked about playing that as a little like mini in between game. I would love to play that.
I don't think it's going to be very mini.
Riven's pretty short.
Yes, for people that know the puzzles.
I guess that's fair. It'll take us a few sittings.
Definitely.
Few
sittings. I remember at the library, I paid. My mom had to pay like $40 or something because I asked if I could print a guide at the library, and I printed on single page, so not double-sided, some forum guide. So not an official guide, a forum guide for Myst that was like 120 pages of forum chats. Yeah.
The things we do as children.
Yeah. Anyway, we haven't had anything to say about Final Fantasy 16 in like 10 minutes. Sorry, folks. We're just chatting now.
It's a good game.
It's a pretty good game. I didn't finish it. It didn't come anywhere close. But like we said in the beginning, if it's not your kind of game, typically, I think you'll still get a lot from it. The story seems fantastic. I liked all the characters. The action is very engaging, though even just in that early bit, you can see the enemy variety is very stale. Everything else about it. Oh, and then if you don't have a lot of time constraints and the downtime doesn't matter that much to you, I really think you're going to get a lot out of it. It seems like a great game, and you freaking love it, right?
It's a very good game. I had a very good time with it. Yep.
All right. Well, maybe check out Final Fantasy 16 if you haven't, folks. But thank you for sticking around. We will be back next time with something we've been wanting to play for a while. You'll see it. It's with our next video.
Pretty unexpected. I'm sure you won't be able to guess.
Yes, I'm quite sure you will not guess. But we're very excited to be returning to some older games. We've been playing a lot of newer games.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice.
Not typical for us to play so many newer games.
Yep.
So looking forward. The next couple episodes are going to be
throwbacks,
a return to form, I think. But thanks for sticking around. You can join us on Discord. Tell us what you think of this, what you've been playing, what you'd like us to play. You just want to chat. If you want to find a game, you can find it there in the Discord channel or server linked below. And yeah, we'll see you around, folks. Don't forget to share what you love with who you love.